Hello and what is going on, guys? Now, today we are going to be talking about a couple of different things in regards to SnowRunner. Now, while we're not talking about a new trailer or anything like that, we are talking about some of the roles that some of the trucks take, as well as kind of doing a roundup on everything we know now, as opposed to what we knew back before all of the recent news and trailers came out. Now, the first vehicle we're going to be talking about here is obviously the Hummer, because even though we knew it was coming, we hadn't really seen a full detailed description of it. And the model we're getting is the H2 Sport Utility Truck, which is kind of one of the more odd runs of the H2 that they made. But it's got an 80-liter fuel capacity, switchable all-wheel drive, upgradable diff lock, in a Scout role. So the upgradable diff lock seems to be indicative of the fact that while it may not have diff lock right off the bat, you'll have to sort of build that into it, or basically effectively buy a set of lockers for your Hummer. Now, I mean, is that fairly accurate to real life? Probably, because, I mean, they did have a couple of different models with different types of, I think, axle features, but don't quote me on that because I'm not a Hummer expert. But I want to say that there were some that had a locker in the front and the rear, and then some that only had a locker in the rear. Correct me if I'm wrong on that, if there are any Hummer people out there, but I believe that's kind of how that came to be. So, going a little bit more in depth on the Hummer itself, I think the Hummer is going to be one of our most customization heavy vehicles. I think it's going to be one of the most popular vehicles in terms of just, overall customization and stuff like that. So definitely going to be a very popular choice, but at the same time, I think a lot of people are going to go for the Chevy 1500. Now, a truck that needs absolutely no introduction is this thing. Now, obviously, they've changed the name around a little bit to sort of make it SnowRunner friendly, but they are calling this the Mk38 with a fuel capacity of 200 liters, diff lock and all-wheel drive, always on, and roll off-road. Now, we've seen this thing in some of the different trailers, and people kind of picked it out and were like, is that a deuce and a half? So I'm definitely excited to use this thing, and I think it fits very well into the American theme of SnowRunner. Now, to be fair, the entire game is not American themed. I mean, it does have its, it does have its other regions that it has to deal with, but I think that's going to be one of the most popular trucks to use in in definitely the Michigan map. Now, or I should say Michigan environment, but even in the Alaska environment, I could see people using that truck. I think that truck's going to be a very, very, very popular choice, especially, among the players that also enjoy the Hummer and enjoy the Chevy 1500 and players that really gravitate to those American trucks. And I think the game is going to do a really good job of catering to both players that are into American trucks and also players that are into, the more like Russian and European trucks. So definitely a good range there, but I'm very happy to see that they really came out and highlighted that truck. Now, to sort of do a little bit of a roundup, at this point, we've had the customization trailer in terms of mechanical and visual. We've also had the Conquer the Wilderness trailer. We've had all of these new community updates. We've had all sorts of different things come out across the course of the past month to month and a half or so. And I think in sort of a roundup type fashion, I would like to go back and look at some of the things that I really think they did a good job of hitting on. And for one, I think they did a really good job of hitting on the fact that this game is going to allow, really heavy customization. And I think the only thing that I would like to see in terms of them pushing a little bit further would be maybe in the future if we got to have something along the lines of properties that we could purchase, Now, this is not anything that's been confirmed. This is not any sort of SnowRunner news. This is just purely speculation on my part and purely just something that I would love to see this franchise give people at some point. But I had the thought the other day of what if someday this game almost transformed into sort of a Test Drive Unlimited type feel, where you had these massive environments and you could own your own house and own your own property, and like say you do a bunch of jobs to make enough money to buy your own property to then put a customizable house on and also put a customizable garage on, and that then existed within a large open world environment of other players where they would also own their own houses and properties and garages. And I think that that's obviously a very, very, very far-fetched, super long-term idea, and that's nothing that we'll see in SnowRunner for sure. But I think that if the series was able to go that direction, and if they had the, enough backing and motivation to go that direction, I think it could be something that, like, way later on in the future could be something they could pull off. Now, to go back to SnowRunner and talk about, present time, I do think it's very, very, very important that in the interest of mods and the interest of the modding community, we have a mode that is sandbox based. So if you have your campaign playthrough with stock trucks, yes, you're going to want to have, your money system. You're going to want to have your damage, all of your restrictions and things like that, and locked vehicles and proper progression. But if you're playing with mods, definitely, I think you would want to have a mode that was sandbox based, where you wouldn't really have to worry too much about progression or money or unlocks if you're playing with modded vehicles on modded maps. Now, also, another thing that builds into that is the fact that the customization options cost money now. So, in previous games like Mud Runner and Spin Tires, the upgrades to vehicles would just be automatically available whenever you'd pull into a garage. Now, they're going to cost money, which is obviously acquired through completing different jobs and different contracts throughout the map. We know this. But if you download a mod and you just want to mess around with, like, say, a rock crawler Jeep on, like, a rock crawling map, you're not really going to want to have to do a bunch of contracts and tasks to build up a bunch of money to basically, be able to afford the upgrades for that vehicle. So if it's got like a different bumper, you don't want to have to drop like $3,000 on it, because that map probably won't have any jobs to do or any contracts to do anyway, since it's a rock crawling based modded map. So I think it's very, very important that they have a sandbox mode, and I think that they'll probably, hopefully, touch on that sometime soon in the relatively near future. I would really, really hope that they do touch on that, because I think that's something that we really, 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 really need addressed. And, not just from the standpoint of somebody like myself that likes to play the game with mods, but I think even more so from the standpoint of people that make mods for this game and really play the game for the mods, because I feel like if you did not allow them to have their sandbox environment, with unlimited money, then I think that it might defeat the purpose of the game for them a little bit. So I would want to make sure that that didn't happen. Now, also, talking on mods as well, I actually had a conversation with a couple of other modders where they were hoping that either the game would have a sort of like sandbox-based mode where you didn't really have to think about money, or that the game would have a system where modders were allowed to pick and choose prices for upgrades to the vehicle. So, like, let's say your tires or your bumper upgrades or suspension upgrades would cost like $1 or $10 as opposed to a few $1,000s, just to make the experience a little bit more approachable and a little bit more enjoyable. Another thing that they could do is allow you to have a certain amount of starting money for every map. And so maybe as a modder would create a map, they would decide, like, okay, so I want this to be a sandbox experience, so you'll have, I don't know, like $500,000 to start, or maybe $10 million to start your map, so you never had to think about the money aspect of it. So that's another possibility, but we'll definitely have to wait and see, and definitely have to wait and get an answer from the developers when it comes to all of that. Now, if there are any questions about SnowRunner that you guys feel haven't been answered yet, and you really want those questions to be answered, definitely let me know in the comments section below, because I'm trying to reach out to the developers to get as many answers for you guys as I can. And, sometimes I'm able to find stuff, sometimes I'm not, and sometimes they don't release any information at all. But when they do, I really like to be on the front line of that information. So if there's, like I said, if there's anything that you guys guys feel like has not been addressed about SnowRunner yet, or anything that you really have questions about, let me know in the comment section below, and I can try to do my best to reach out to the developers for you guys to see what kind of information we can find. So with that being said, again, let me know in the comments below what you're most excited for about SnowRunner, but also what you're most concerned about, or what you feel like really needs to be in the game. And just an interesting side note here, this map, the Scarab Desert, I really want to give a massive shout out again to the creator. I know I did a map spotlight on this map, but this map really is like genuinely cool, and one of the best mod maps I've seen for MudRunner in a while. So again, hope you guys enjoyed, and I will see you guys in the next one. And if you'd like to stay up to date on anything and everything SnowRunner, hit that like button, hit that subscribe button, and hit that notification bell, and I'll talk to you guys later.